Streaming live. Hi, everyone. It's Tuesday evening. I have a great group of people here. We're going to talk about mental health and stand-up paddling or in paddling, and lots to talk about here. And everyone has quite a story here in a lot of different ways, whether it's their business being involved, nonprofits, expeditions, movies, books, camps. So I think this is something everyone can relate to, and especially during the pandemic. I do want to just quickly note that I kind of was looking for a mental health professional, would have loved to have someone on. Thank you, those of you who gave me some good hints. We didn't find anyone. I think that's okay. I think we have such an amazing community. This is, opinion and thought, and some people have more research than others. So this isn't necessarily expert advice, but it's sharing story and sharing from the heart. And there's a lot of great people on here that I'm excited for you to meet if you don't know already. My name is Kristen Thomas, KT Outside, and I just find this has been a great opportunity, silver lining to a really awful situation, to share and to talk and to get people involved. So we are live, but this is also recorded, so it will be on YouTube later and also in a couple of different places, including a Facebook group called SUPConnect Live and KT Discussions. So with that said, thank you. I want to thank Maggie Adams, who let me share her really cool, it's a GoPro camera, right, that does these? Sorry, you're muted right now, which is, yeah. Is that a GoPro picture?
GoPro Max.
Yeah.
3D, yeah, 3D.
But
yeah.
I just love that. I had put just sort of a peaceful picture in, but I just love this one of you sitting on your board with the whole world, because it is about mental health. So we're talking that tonight. Casey, why don't you launch us off and tell us a little bit? I know you gave me a lot more great pictures, which you have, but just threw a few up there. Introduce yourself, please.
Well, my name is Casey Rankowski, and I started out in the paddling industry, teaching paddleboarding lessons and women's camps. And I kind of made my way into the industry side of things, and I now work for SIC, running marketing and communications for the US, as well as their athlete team. And at the same time, still doing my paddling camps, and also run a nonprofit called Paddle for Recovery, which is free paddleboard lessons for cancer survivors. So kind of cross over into many worlds, but have a lot of experience motivating, coaching, and helping folks get outside in general.
Wonderful, Casey. Thank you so much. And Will, I was honored to have been at your premiere.
That's right. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, that was a few years ago, but you introduced yourself and the epic expedition you went on.
All right, so my name is Will Schmidt. I'm an expedition stand-up paddle athlete. I'm also a brand ambassador for SIC. I've done quite a few things. I actually hold 6 world first and onlys, including fastest times across the Catalina Channel, most miles paddled in the Channel Islands, the first shore-to-shore paddle through the California Channel Islands. And what I'm known for most above anything else is my 2014 stand-up paddle unassisted and consecutive from the Canadian border down the Pacific coast of the USA to Mexico, 1,386 miles in 58 days.
Great. And he's going to share a little bit more, I think, about, the why, and he was raising funds, and kind of his background a little bit in terms of mental health and how that all works. Maggie. Oh, you're still muted.
Trying to be a good interviewer, right? Okay. Hi, I'm Maggie Adams. I'm out in California. So Kristen wanted me to show you the book, the Blue Mind book. I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. I'm like, oh yeah, I have it on my iPad. So this is a great book to read if you want to pick up something that just talks about being in, near, on, or under the water, and how it can make you happier, healthier, more connected, and better at what you do. So just give that a little, I don't know if you want to do this now or later. So anyway, you had it on there. So, yeah, I have my business here in Carlsbad. Mostly I do lessons. taking beginners out, and then tourists and stuff, and do some events, for the food banks and stuff. And I also have worked with Cassie with Paddle for Recovery. I hooked up with her, or didn't hook up with her. We worked together a couple of years ago. We had to skip last year because of the pandemic. Yeah, I'm in the process of also working more with mental health advocates and doing more, and I can tell more about that later when we talk.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Mike Shorman.
Hi. So I'm Mike Shorman. Thanks for putting all of this together, Kristen. So nice to be here with all of you. A little bit about me. I'm from Toronto, Canada, as you can see in that picture with the CN Tower in the background. I am, I started paddleboarding about, 12 years ago when the big boom came in, paddleboarding started in Canada, and everybody started wanting to do it. So I was a certified professional paddleboarding coach with Paddle Canada, and I taught lessons and did rentals and did tours in front of the Toronto skyline until I developed a neurological condition where I lost my sense of balance. And I had to retrain my brain how to walk properly again. When doctors said I wouldn't be able to paddleboard again, that sent me on a huge mental health journey. And eventually I did, in very small steps, just sitting down. And now I can stand up for short periods of time. And I am a mental health advocate with mental health nonprofits here in Canada, and I'm this year's International Stand-Up Paddleboarding Man of the Year with SUPConnect. And that's my book.
Yeah, and that is your book. Yes, absolutely. We're going to talk about all that. And John Nippers isn't on with us yet. He's going to be, he's at the car dealership and joining us soon. And also someone with an amazing story, and something that I think a few of us have heard, many times. Paddling changed my life, or paddling saved my life. And we have a lot of amazing people. So we're putting together a resource list, and we're going to be sharing that. But let me get out of the share and back to seeing everyone. I do want to thank everybody who's listening right now. This is live, but we also record it. Those of you who are out there listening right now, I thought kind of what we would start with is, what is your favorite part of stand-up paddling? Because and you don't have to think just mental health, but boy, it seems like a lot of those terms come up. So I'd love you just to type in, those of you who are on Facebook somewhere, you can actually, I see some comments. Hi, Kirsty, Greg, Michelle, Robert, Sean, we got a lot of people watching, but maybe you guys can throw that out, and I'm going to throw it out to this group right here. What do you love about stand-up paddling? What does it bring to you? Anybody want to start with that?
I can start with it, if you like. The big thing that stand-up paddling brings to me is accountability. And what I mean by that is that it's just you and the water. I'm a big advocate of, I paddle a lot offshore and a lot by myself. And I love the fact that when you're out there and you're paddling, you can't just say, okay, I'm done. We'll stop here. You have to come back. And I think that's what it does for me. It prevents me from stopping myself when I know I can go further. So accountability is the big thing for me.
Oh, I love that. That's a good one. Not one I'd heard before.
I think for me, the thing that I love about paddleboarding is it can help you change your perspective. I mean, the whole idea that Mother Nature really heals it's a real thing. I mean, I'm sure we've all experienced those days where we just have had enough, we're bummed out, or we're not feeling just right, and then you step outside and you feel the sun on your face and the wind in your hair and the smell of the fresh air, and it immediately starts to change your perspective of things. And then you add some movement to that, and that, you know, intensifies the feeling. And, you know, that's exactly what paddleboarding does for me. And I know for a lot of folks who participate in the sport. So I love that aspect that paddleboarding does take you on that journey and can truly help you change your perspective.
Love that. Anyone else want to speak to that, to what paddleboarding does for you, brings to you?
Well, I just really love the freedom that you get when you're on the water. Just the escapism, I guess, you know, because you have, no matter where you go, even if it's just a lake, you know, you can get out and be in this vast place on the water, and just enjoy the peacefulness, the solitude, the nature, the sounds. I mean, just some of this, just listening and on the water and being out there is just the therapeuticness of it all. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, you
I
wanna-
would
yeah.
say, oh, sorry.
Yep, go
I
Mike.
would say kind of confidence and achievement. You know, and I think I'm speaking more about teaching, watching people develop from going out and being really nervous, to finishing like feeling powerful and feeling confident, and also, you know, with achievement, with kind of goal setting, kind of what was touched on earlier. You know, you go out so far and then you have to come back, and it's like goal setting. I'm gonna go out this far today, but then you have to paddle back. So I think you know, confidence is built that way, and so that's, yeah.
The big C, confidence. Word of the week. I love that. Just looking up, you know, basically what just being outdoors does for us, just to start with. That's like a step, and it's been mentioned in here. De-stressing, you know, stress relief, reducing anxiety, boosting mood, better cognitive function, memory improvement, ability to focus, boosting creativity. They're tied to the things that you guys talked about, but also being outside. And then Maggie mentioned a book, and I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about it, but there's now scientific evidence that not just outside, but the water has been proven being in, on, or around the water. She's showing us her book. Wallace, oops, you want to say something about it? You're muted again.
It's not my book. It's actually, Wallace J. Nichols, who's actually in Northern California. But
it's a whole movement, isn't it? I really love that direction. Yeah.
He's supposed to be coming out with a couple more books on it as well. But
and I know, I feel, and I think it's a healthy one, I'm addicted to water. I really crave being in, on, or around water. And I'm lucky to live near water, but I think a lot of us get that and maybe don't. But I think we've seen it a lot in the pandemic. What we thought was going to be just to have to stay inside, people found the outside for the first time. People found water for the first time. And I think that's been really interesting. One of our listeners, maybe one of you guys knows, Greg Parentinos. He says, I'm a social work student training to be a mental health therapist. So from my perspective, the water becomes a holding environment, like a baby being held. It's a therapeutic environment, and I hope to bring clients on the water for therapy one day. I love that, and I think we could all relate to that. So we're with you. Keep it up. And Kirsty McMillan says, the addiction is real, Katie.
It really is.
It really is. But each of you are doing or have done some really important and special things in a lot of different ways, from having fundraisers to having camps to doing expeditions, doing movies and books. So I'd love you each to share your stories a little bit, or a little bit more about what you do. Who'd like to start?
I could start very quickly. I won't go too deep into it, but 4 years ago, I started a program called Paddle for Recovery, and I started the program because 5 of my friends were diagnosed with cancer all at the same time. And I watched them go through their treatment and obviously saw the physical stressors of the treatment. But what I didn't realize at the time was how the mental recovery would go and how much harder it is because it's silent suffering, if you will. So I saw all this happening, and I saw some of my friends battling the depression, battling the self-confidence, poor body image, and whatnot. And I decided to take one of my friends who was battling cancer for the 3rd time out on some outdoor adventure trips. And we took her rock climbing, ice climbing, and paddleboarding. And paddleboarding was the thing that really stuck with her, mainly because it was something she could pursue on her own, but also because of that changing of perspective. She said to me out on the water one time, how life feels so different on a paddleboard, and how could that be? And from that moment, I thought, oh gosh, this is like a great opportunity to share this with survivors out there. And that's how the program started. Free paddleboard lessons for cancer survivors, hosted by water sports businesses nationally who donate their hosting locations and their gear, while the Paddle for Recovery team links them up with cancer survivors. And we have been blessed to have witnessed some wonderful moments out on the water and hear all their stories, and then see them come back year after year, and also then go and buy a paddleboard and know now they're still pursuing the sport during their recovery process. So for me, the whole idea of mental health and wellness really came together with this program in one moment at time. There are some things that specifically happen with cancer survivors when they're in their recovery phase, where they kind of go in this vicious cycle where fatigue fuels the mental battle, and the chronic fatigue is not the type of chronic fatigue that you have when you're in treatment. It's different, where no amount of sleep or rest or recovery will actually get rid of this fatigue, and doctors don't know why. So it's like cracking the vicious cycle and slowly trying to venture out and move and get outdoors has proven in many studies to be the very thing that helps survivors get past and start living again. So I never thought in my paddleboarding teaching career that I would kind of end up here in the nonprofit, but life led me here, and it's wonderful to see it kind of all to come together at one time.
Fantastic. Mike, you want to share? You
Sure.
shared part of your story, but and we have to be really grateful because Mike Sherman's super famous now. He's on TV like every day. NBC, did you say tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow morning,
is a-
yeah. Yeah, no. So I went from being this kind of vibrant, healthy, athletic guy who was on the water teaching every day, and I loved it. I loved seeing the transformations out there from people being really nervous and scared and anxious to owning it and crushing it, and just seeing the joy of people falling in love with it every day and making relationships. And then I got very sick really quickly. It came out of the blue. I'd just come back from visiting Aaron O'Malley in California. And
Should we guilt him right now, Maggie, that he didn't visit us? Only Aaron? What happened to your friends, Maggie and Kristen?
know about you guys back then. I do know.
Yes, next time.
And I got really sick, and it was a reactivation of my chickenpox as shingles, and it attacked my ear. and you know, everybody just thought I was, you know, surfing and paddleboarding in California. So they just thought it was like a dirty water in the ear infection, and so many things happened. But I lost my sense of balance, and I couldn't walk, and you know, I couldn't walk from like the living room to the kitchen, and I, you know, I needed help bathing, and my face collapsed on the one side. So I, you know, had trouble eating and speaking, and, you know, vision and speech and hearing impairments. And so, you know, my business gone, independence gone, social life gone. And you know, when they said, you know, paddleboarding is not a reality, it's going to make you really sick, it was really hard. And there was a lot of anger, and there was a lot of rage directed to all the doctors and everybody involved. And I went on this huge mental health journey. I actually just shut down. I wasn't talking about it, what I was going through, and I just sunk deeper and deeper into the hopelessness of everything. And then it got to a point where my family said, you need to get help. So I went to stay in a crisis center, and that was kind of the turning point for everything. And it was while I was there that I realized, okay, well, if I can do one tough thing, I can do many tough things. And do this, then I can get back on a paddleboard when doctor said I couldn't. And I did. I got on a paddleboard for 3 minutes sitting down, and that gave me the confidence to do it for 5 minutes sitting down, and then for 7 minutes sitting down, until you know, a couple months later, I stood up for the first time. And vertigo and dizziness is a part, like when I turn my head, I get dizzy. But that led to winning North America's largest inspirational speaking competition. I did a speech called Paddles Up, which is about saying yes to yourself when you don't think you can do something, and how each little win gives us motivation for the next big one. And that speech is, you know, that kind of ripped through the paddling community, and you know, people from all over the world. You know, I talked about going to a crisis center in that speech, and people from all over the world, you know, whether they had Parkinson's or multiple sclerosis, or they knew somebody who had cancer. You know, I think the beautiful thing from that was not like all the likes and the comments and the shares. It was hearing from people and how it resonated, and it's just become this really beautiful thing. And now I'm a advocate with JAC.org, which is a mental health organization in Canada. And I have run 2 success. I just had my 2nd annual Paddles Up event, where we go out paddleboarding and we raise funds for mental health, and we raise our paddles and salute people struggling. And this was our 2nd year. So I'm looking forward to next year and all the years to come.
Well, what an amazing story. And we're thrilled that you were able to get yourself out of, you know, and change gears and come back out of that situation. Great book. Great. You should follow Mike, and go check out his, the speeches that he's done, because you've been in more than one now. And we're lucky in stand-up paddling that you brought us along on that journey, and that it was part of your journey, because I think you've really spread the word, and that, you know, it still is kind of a young sport where people say, what is that, you know, or aren't familiar with it. So you've shared the love and made all kinds of connections all over the world, and are continuing to do that. So great stuff. Will, you want to go next and talk about your journey?
Of course. So one trend that I hear everyone saying here is that, you know, I really wasn't supposed to be here. I wasn't supposed to be in this spot, you know, advocating for things like this, but here we are rising to the occasion. And that's my story as well. I've been surfing for more than 25 years and paddling for greater part of 15. In 2007, I started straying away from doing everything I loved after leading a lifetime of general anxiety to the point where on a bright, sunny, beautiful Monday morning, I locked myself in my bedroom and planned on never coming out of it with a bottle of pills and something to drink with it. And it used to be something that was tough for me to talk about, and now I've really accepted the fact that this is part of the story and needs to be told. My mother called me that morning and begged me to get outside, paddle, do something. So that's what I did. And I say to this day that I found my vindication 2 miles offshore on a stick of foam with just me and space around me. And right after that, I really, it sounds like everyone says, but paddling did save my life. The ocean saved my life, and I wanted to do anything I could to give back. Well, about a year later, a military friend of mine, I was a United States Marine, military friend of mine, did not win that battle and ended up committing suicide and leaving behind his wife and a couple children. We wanted to do something to help him out, help the family out. And so I did a Catalina Channel paddle, a solo paddle. At that time, it was something people didn't do, solo paddles like that, a 40-mile crossing to Dana Point. And when GoFundMe was in its infancy, and I did a little GoFundMe, and we raised like $6,000 to help the family and things. And that was just me being, wanting to do something. That was going to be it. And then people started asking me, well, what's next? That was great. What are you going to do now? And I thought, well, maybe I can just run with this. So I plan more paddles. In 2013, I paddled the California Channel Islands, the inner 5 islands from shore to shore with a chase boat. And we made a small little movie, and we helped out a friend of mine who actually, his daughter had leukemia. And we did a little film and helped her out. I think you remember Greg Beckler and Rebecca and them. My little girl, Raylyn, if she's out there listening to me, I was her first crush. She was 6. But yeah, and she's full recovery, just doing great these days. And I kept pushing it. And, one day I mentioned to a couple friends that we were talking about, fun paddles and things we could do. And a buddy said, I said to a friend, it would be really cool if we did like a coastal paddle, like, Canada to Mexico, something like that. And just saying it just for fun. And a week later or so, I guess, the grapevine came around and someone said, well, I heard you're doing like a coastal paddle. Well, I guess I can't back out of this now. So I paddled from Canada to Mexico. This is in 2014 over a 58-day period. It was 1,386 miles consecutively, unassisted on the water. And I did it to benefit the Wounded Warrior Project and military service members suffering from anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress. And I'm still a big advocate for them to this day. So I made a film about it. You can actually find it on YouTube. It's called Through My Eyes. Kristen, you were there for the premiere. And it's a when I say through my eyes, it's exactly how I saw it, through a shaky GoPro with slime and dirt and mud and things all over it. And you see me crashing into beaches. There's no image stabilization. There's no colorization. It's like, that's how it was. And for me, a lot of people say, well, I love the peace and the calm and things I find in the ocean. I don't. I find the grit and the dirt and the wind and the nastiness and how the playing field changes on me on a regular basis. And that's how I get out of here and back into a safe place in my mind and my body, is just thrashing myself on the water. I want that inclement weather. I want that big swell. I want that bump. I mean, you've paddled the Molokai Channel. You and I were there at one point. We know that kind of water, and there's something that separates you from your mind and makes you focus on other things that are greater than you. I think that's what paddling does for me. It gets me out of my head and grounded, if that's a word we can use on the ocean. But grounded is just me in the ocean and finding some sort of calm and direction and a way to get back to where I am in all the chaos. And I think that's what it does for me.
I love that description. And it is so many things and different things to different people. But I think some of those different things do the same thing in getting us out of head and living in the moment. And fantastic. Maggie, you want to share a little bit about, I joined you in a fundraiser for this organization, a great advocacy that's, are they local? No, they're national, aren't they?
They're national, yeah. National Association for Mental Illness. Yeah. So, gosh, I'm gonna cry.
I already did. You're
Anyway,
allowed.
it's so great to hear all your stories. But I remember meeting Will on the ocean in Oceanside when he was doing his trek from Canada to Mexico. It's pretty cool. I think there's like 5 of us that paddled out to meet him and cheer him on and stuff. So that was very cool. Yeah, so I mean, I've been paddleboarding too for about 10 years and racing and doing lessons. I started my business and, I really love it. And I just feel right now I'm kind of transitioning. My son was diagnosed 5 years ago now, 4 years ago with bipolar. And we're still dealing a lot with it. It's pretty fresh still. It's even though it's been 4 years. I was never, mental health to me was like, oh, what, I didn't even recognize my son being sick. It was like, didn't even think anything about it, when I saw him and, or when we found out, it's like, it wasn't even on my radar. Like people are like, oh, you didn't even know that. And I'm like, no. And so we've learned so much, about it. I mean, National Association for Mental Illness, again, we went and did like a 12-week family thing where it's just my husband and I just went, our caretakers or whoever, parents, and you're in a room with like 25 people doing basically group therapy, and talking about, my son, what's he doing, what's going on with the psychiatrist, the psychologist, the meds. I mean, it's just so crazy. Paddleboarding was great for me to be able to go out and paddle and, I could be out there and just go and, burn off some of that fear and unknown and anxiety and everything about, that situation, or any given situation really. But, I did last year when the pandemic hit, I did, the Paddle for Mental Health. NAMI usually has a walk every year that they do where, thousands of people go and do a big walk for, it's called the Day of Hope, or Hope for the Day. And so they weren't having it last year. And I'm like, oh, cool. I can do virtual, we can do virtual. So I set up the Paddle for Mental Health virtual thing. And it was really cool. I had people from all over the world kind of participating, and there weren't many going on then, that they were doing virtually. And it was just like, look, just go out and paddle. I don't care. I think I did 5K or something, 3 miles, but it was just like, just go out and paddle, share your pictures, share that you're on the water. And it's really cool because I met, some people, they reached out and just, talking about their own mental health problems, which was really cool. And then, and actually when I'm on the water with people one-on-one, I mean, it's amazing the stories that, that people open up and talk to you about. It's like, wow, they're like, say something to me and, and I'll share them my story a little bit, I'll tell them about my son or something, because it's like, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is happening to me, or this is what's going on in my life. And it's like, wow, it's just so, it's really cool when, I go out on the water with people that are sharing those type of stories. It's just, and it is, interesting because you're like, well, I don't normally talk to people about this, but, and it's something about being on the water, I think, that brings it out, and anyway, so I am, Kristen noticed I changed my name. I am kind of transitioning. So I want to become more of a mental health advocate. So I'm going to look into doing a nonprofit, but I'm going to go with, Blue Paddle Mind is what I'm changed my name from Blue Paddle SUP to Blue Paddle Mind. And I want to do more fundraising or events for mental health, and do donation only paddles or lessons and donate that money to mental health, some organization, maybe NAMI, or set up, something of my own or something like that. So that's kind of where I'm headed.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And it is interesting. I said a positive of the pandemic is more people getting outdoors, but a big negative is the increase in mental health issues, and awareness is so needed. So really, really appreciate what you're doing and sharing that. I know addiction is up and all kinds of things are up. John Nippers is going to join us, and we're going to have one more story, and this one's a pretty dramatic one. I don't know if most of you know him and know his story. Connecting to audio. I'm not sure if I've invited people in. Jace Porter, by the way, says Semper Fi, Will. A lot of us know Jace, and he also served as you did, and he's saying amazing stories. I know he has a lot of stories too. He was actually just on a panel where hey, John, where we were talking about just wellness and fitness and cross training, and everybody on there talked a lot about the integration, that deep wellness, or whatever you want to call it, that the mental, spiritual, physical is all tied together, and we're much more aware of that these days. We don't separate those things so much. So one more story, and we'll get back to kind of talking about bigger pictures. John, you have kind of an amazing story, and would love you to share it. Can you hear us? Ooh. Working on that connection. Sorry, you got me sniffling now too. I sort of thought to bring Kleenex. I thought I knew all your stories well enough that I could, but hearing them again, thank you for all sharing from your heart. Yeah, I don't want to give too much of John's away. I don't know if you saw that picture. John is best known for paddling a lot and a lot of distance with a lot of dogs on his board.
Yeah.
He travels all over the country with dogs. And I think I met him first at Chattajack. He's wearing that shirt. And we both are crazy enough that the next weekend, although he drove there, I flew back home. We did a 10-miler in Arizona called Another Damn Race. And that's where that picture was from. Hey, John.
Hey, aloha.
Aloha.
I have to apologize. I'm kind of like, it's been kind of a crazy day. I was trying to do mechanics. I'm not a 1985 Mercedes-Benz mechanic, but I tried to be today. And I've missed a lot of the audio, so I've like caught bits and pieces, but I'm really honored, and it's like I love to be able to watch you, and being invited to share a little bit has been cool. So I may have missed some of what people.
That's okay. You can go back and hear the other stories later, but we'd love you to share your story and your journey.
Well, I guess it begins with my dog making a lot of noise. Here, Jericho. Here. Let me put him in the other room. Jericho, go.
I should know the dog's names by now, but I don't remember all of them.
Yeah. So stand-up paddleboarding changing our lives. It's definitely been a life-changing thing for me. Mental health is huge for me. I've had a journey. It's been a 20-year journey dealing with kind of a crazy deal. Like I've told you, I've told a few friends, but most of my friends don't even really know what happened to me. So it's kind of cool to be able to share. I'm like a survivor of being shot. I got shot. A guy thought I was messing around with his girlfriend 20 years ago when I wasn't, and comes over to my house with a loaded .22 caliber pistol. And I'm thinking, it's Monday, it's 8:30, there's a 9-ball tournament. Maybe this guy's here to see if I want to go shoot pool. And turns out, no, he's there to kill me. So over something that didn't happen. Well, long story short, I hopped in the car to see what was going on and say, hey, and I get greeted by an angry man who thinks I've messed around with his girlfriend, and is pressing a loaded .22 caliber pistol and grabbing my head with his other hand, and he's bigger than me. And not that would even matter, because, you know, I'm just in shock. And long story short, because we can't talk all day, I'm not going to tell everything, but I get shot. Well, he asked me what's going on, and I didn't know what he was talking about. He thought that, you know, I'd had this affair with his girlfriend, who actually wanted to have an affair, but I had no idea that she did. And anyhow, I all of a sudden start getting shot in the front seat of this car. Boom, one in the eye. My eye's a little bit messed up. I squint a little bit to hide it, but one bullet, boom, bounced off the occipital bone into the back of my eye. Immediately after that, another shot into the sideburn, busting off on some bone parts and like shrapnel going across my face. I'm in shock, trying to get away, put my hands on my head, and stumble out of the passenger seat of this car. And he gets out from the top of his side and shoots me 3, a third, a fourth, a fifth, all going through my hand, into the back of my head, my shoulder, into my jaw, breaks my jaw, oblique fracture. And then the 5th bullet through this finger into the back of my head, right back here, punching skull fragments into my cerebellum, knocking me down on the ground, making me look like a dead person. And so I'm paralyzed temporarily, being that part of your brain that controls your motor skills. And he thinks he's killed me, which is kind of like a miracle that that he thought I was dead, because he could have easily just gone over to the ground and finished me off. But I'm conscious. I'm just paralyzed. So this this happens, and being kind of a trauma.
I think that's an understatement. Yeah.
Yeah. I
kind of. Yeah.
I mean, the guy immediately after this shows his girlfriend that he thinks had an affair with me, that he's done this to get at her, I guess, and then he kills himself. So it was kind of one of those attempted murder-suicide deals. But I have to be honest, back then, 20 years ago, Kristen, I was kind of happy he killed himself. You know what I mean? Like, at that point in my life, it was better. At least he was dead. But then years later, I feel for the kid that he left, you know, without a daddy, and all the things that, you know, I've forgiven the man at this point. But it took really that years to probably to get like to the place where I really I don't know, it's a journey. It's like, it's a never-ending journey. I'm still on it. I still go like paddle for therapy. It's my therapy. You know, when we messaged last night, I'm paddling. You know, it's what I do when things are rough. You know, you load up the board, you go paddle. You know, whether it's with my dogs, which I do most of the time, or just by myself, training for races, doing these epic things like Will. I'm totally like, wow, what Will's done. I'm like in awe.
Well,
but this,
you know, what you just explained and went through, I'm sorry, I didn't know you hadn't shared it. I mean, that's a big deal that you just shared. But the journey that you must have had is just amazing. So we thank you for recovering. I mean, what that must have taken to come back out of that. And I'm glad paddling is still therapy for you.
It is, but could I say one more thing? I'll say, like Will, I heard part of what he said about like his past and some darker parts. Some of my 20 years hasn't always been escaping in a real positive way like this, like getting out on the water and being positive. And gosh, you know what it is to me today, being able to do this for me and my mental health, and then also inspire people at the same time. It's like, wow, you know, it's so amazing. But there was the chapter 1 of, you know, and it's all been healing stages. But before I stumbled into paddleboarding, you know, I probably drank. I quit drinking, actually. That's another thing. I quit drinking and went into a lot more heavy paddling at the same time. And so that's been a good therapy. And that's another thing I'd like to share too, is like mental health issues a lot of us do self-medicate, or try to, and there's nothing better than liquid therapy and paddling and outdoors and nature and all that. So I highly encourage that these days too. But anyhow, yeah, it's paddling. I guess the to sum up the story, what really brought healing to its most completed stage is discovering stand-up paddleboarding, because I came back to that house where that happened, and I really hit a low. I'd lived in Hawaii for 7 years. I was a chef for the Fairmont Orchid. I had my own salsa business, Lava Salsa Hawaii. I did all that. I was doing some really awesome things, not taking life for granted. I was a chef for Keystone Vale Resorts in Keystone, riding the gondola to work for a chapter of the healing. But, when I came back to my house where this happened in 2012, 13, 14 era, that was like, ooh, low. Like, I live in this area of Oklahoma, my house where I came back to, leaving paradise in Hawaii, leaving the gondola and the nice, the back bowls, all that, and coming back to Oklahoma, where you got shot in your front yard. That was kind of intense. So paddling really pulled me out of that lowest period that I ever really had. And all of a sudden I saw this neighborhood of water. Like, my lake has 1,300 miles of shoreline. I got this river that goes all the way to the Gulf. I could, so yeah, that's where it really became the life changer. So sorry to talk too much, but that's
Thank you
kind
for sharing your story. So, yes, Mike.
Oh, I just wanted to say hi, John. And and I'm such a huge fan. John's actually, that's John.
That's right. He's in the book, huh?
John's in my book.
with my leash wrapped around my leg like a candy cane.
No, John was one of my biggest supporters when I was going through when I was going through what I went through, and I'm really grateful. And John has actually shared that story. This isn't the first time I'm hearing that story. So thank you for being so brave and sharing that with everybody today. Like it's an amazing story. And I just want to say a big hug to you, because I think you're amazing. And yeah, you're a stand-up guy, Jamie.
Yes,
What was that, Mike?
You're a stand-up guy.
Oh, you are a stand-up guy. And I gotta say something about Mike too. Mike volunteered to be on the support boat when I do Molokai. He's gonna be on the support boat.
I don't know. He's not jumping up and down about that one.
Well, no, I will.
Well, if he doesn't want to do it, I'll come in there and help you out too.
I know. Good
Right
stuff.
on.
Good stuff.
Mike, at least you
Yeah.
don't have to paddle it
Paddle it,
though. Sport boat is good.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely getting some love there with sharing your story. Jamie's saying that's so wild, hard to believe, and amazed you're sharing. You were also brave and inspirational from Tracy. Thanks, Tracy, for listening, Christensen. Wow. Whether bringing awareness to mental health, helping other people, helping ourselves, stand-up paddleboarding, paddling, being outside, we know helps. I would even go so far on kind of that. I think stand-up paddling even more maybe than other paddling. I think perspective has been mentioned multiple times. The fact that we get to see the world, the land in the distance above the water, but we also get to see in the water. I hear about that, and I don't, again, these are little things, but I love that so much about stand-up paddling. And I've heard that's like nothing against kayaking, but kayaking versus stand-up. I just think it really has its bonuses to being beneficial to us health-wise. And Casey, I know you're a coach and a trainer, so the movement part of it that we're not really talking about tonight, but it ties together so beautifully that here we are moving our bodies, and I think it is part of the our mental health too.
It really is. It really is. And I did want to mention, you know, we think of our health and wellness often as a temporary place to be, but the idea of your fitness is for life is something to really consider, because that's only way to maintain, you know, and continue on. So paddleboarding offers a lifestyle, a way for you to live every day, you know, whether you're fighting your demons or pursuing your fitness, or trying to create that equilibrium with your health and wellness. It's like the perfect opportunity to you know, just to continue going forward through life. So I love that.
Yeah.
I like that you say the word maintain, because this is not a cure. There's no cure-all for mental health, you know, for your mood, for these things. And so we're here to maintain ourselves and to move forward. You know, I think there's never been a day I've gone out to paddle and come back and said, wow, you know, I probably shouldn't have done that. No, you always feel good when you come back. You always feel good when you're done. Maybe if you didn't feel good about going out there that day, but you're certainly in a different perspective afterwards.
Absolutely. Well, whether it's accountability or perspective or freedom or stress relief, I think we agree that stand-up paddling can be part of that journey, part of maintaining our mental and physical health and wellness. So thank you all for what you're doing, what you've done, and for sharing your stories. We do have a follow-up, and I want you to be able to contact these people or their organizations, or find their film on YouTube, buy the book on Amazon. John, wow, your story someday might need to be a book somewhere too. Wow.
That's my little advice.
And Maggie, we wish you the best of luck with the mind and the direction that you're going. That's really cool. Blue Paddle Mind. And if she didn't mention, SUP Chat is one of the most active Facebook groups, and she is the moderator and founder, or whatever you're called. And you put a lot into that, and it keeps it really going. So I think you're very good at that. And I think that especially during pandemic, again, the connection of Facebook, I know social media gets poo-pooed, but wow, it's really been for me a great way to connect during the last crazy year. Thank you again. Any last thoughts from any of you before we close up? It's almost been an hour already. Where'd that go?
I'd just like to say that I love how the word, like, I know it's an action, like stand up, but I love how the word stand up is in front of paddleboarding, because I think that each of us has, and I see it a lot within the paddleboarding community, not just with mental health, but with so many different causes. And the sport has given all of us, everyone, the opportunity to stand up for something. And I love that we're all standing up for kind of mental health in here. But that it gives opportunity to stand up for you know, whatever we feel.
Sorry, my dog is
so too.
barking at the UPS guy. Well, thank you, those of you listening. We have some good friends that watched with us. Thank you so much. Oh, awesome group of humans here. Thank you, Jamie. And actually, Jamie Donnelly was the one who suggested this topic. So thank you. It was a great idea for a topic. And I hope we can continue these. I do these not as an expert on anything, but just to start discussions and keep them going. So be sure to reach out to these people if what they're doing is of interest to you in any way. And this will be recorded, so you can send your friends to listen to it on YouTube or something.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you, Kristen.
Thank you. So great seeing all you.
Paddles up.
Thank you.
Shaka, all of those good things. Take care, everyone.
Oh, well.
Thank you.
Bye.